If you're a woman in your 40s or 50s or beyond, and something inside you is starting to say that something needs to change, but at the same time you feel afraid, well, let me reassure you that nothing is wrong with you. It's true. Nothing is wrong with you. I have opened up conversations that I would like to have with women just like you. If you are open to doing that, then there's a form in the description below. All you have to do is fill out that form. I personally read all of the responses. And if it feels like a good fit, then I will be in touch with you by email to set up the time and date for us to talk. So please consider that. Okay. So, what I want to talk to you today about is when you start to get that feeling, you know that something is off. A lot of times it may feel like, something's wrong with me, right? Something is wrong with me. You may even start to feel afraid. You may feel like you're not worthy because something is wrong with you. Well, let me tell you again that it's okay. It's natural. It's part of us women in our, the age that we are in our 40s, 50s and beyond is something natural that comes up at this point in our lives. And you know that you're not perfect. Just in case you didn't know that, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And just for the fact that we're not perfect, our lives are not perfect. Nothing really is perfect in their lives. This is in our lives. This is part of the human dance. This is why we're here. We're here in this human body. We've come from someplace. We're in this human body for a few decades, and then we won't be anymore. But this is part of the human dance is seeing what life is about that curiosity and continuing to work with what we're given and what it is that we want. So I want to back up a little bit and get to like the origins of why you may start feeling the way you do now about that kind of uneasy feeling or something like that. Well, I personally think that it starts out actually when we're little. We're taught through, a lot of times through our loving families and communities. But the fact is that we are really taught what to believe and taught how to live. We're taught what society is like, what's right and wrong in society to do. We're taught that a lot of times without even realizing that when we're little. And really, beliefs, I don't know if you realize this, but beliefs are really just thoughts that are repeated over and over again. So they're thoughts that we get to a certain point where, like, oh, that must be the absolute truth because you have been thinking them for so long. You take it as truth, and therefore it becomes a belief for you. So we have all of these beliefs from when we're little. Some of them change. Like, for example, when I was really little, I used to believe, not because anybody told me. I think it was probably even from a book that I read. So I had this belief that there were alligators under my bed. And if I got up during the night, then those alligators would bite me. So I did not get up during the night. Once I went to bed, I stayed in the bed till morning time and there was light and I could see that there weren't alligators under my bed. You may have beliefs as well when you were young, or you may even have beliefs as to, what you should believe spiritually or what you should believe that a woman is supposed to do according, with your family, or if you should have kids or not, or what types of careers you should have. There's so many beliefs that we have, and a lot of times we don't even realize that we have them. But those beliefs are entrenched in our minds. They're entrenched in our subconscious. So a lot of times we go along and we live our lives according to what those beliefs are. So because of those beliefs and the structure that we're brought up in, the church that we may or may not have gone to, the way our parents behaved, the way our guardians, the way our siblings behaved, the way that we behaved, that's the world that we saw, and that's what we most of the time expected pretty much the whole world to be like that. Little by little, we start to learn that not everybody grows up like us. Not everybody has the same beliefs, the same thoughts that we do. So we're little, we start to grow up, and we're following, a lot of times, following a path according to what we were taught when we were younger. So we build a life. For me, for example, building a life for me meant going to, high school, finishing high school, going to college. I studied abroad. I met my partner. Years later, he was doing graduate studies. I did graduate studies. We got married, had children, continued, in our professional lives. So I took on roles of being wife and mother along with building my career. So those were all roles that I took on. And then it comes a point, like I'm talking to you as a woman in your, 40s, 50s, 60s. It comes a point in your life where it may be different points in your life where you realize that something starts to change inside. It's like you feel something starting to shift. And I think that's your inner voice. That's who you really are inside. And that voice, if you take time to listen to it, which I'll get to in just a minute, you'll start realizing that that is perhaps a different way of thinking or believing than how you have been up until this point. So I like to call that uneasiness, that beginning to perhaps change. I call that the second half shift. That's what I call it. Some people call it different things. There is a misunderstanding, though, in this second half shift is a lot of people think that that means something is wrong with you. I did too. I at first thought, well, gosh, something is wrong with me. I have a good life. I have a good relationship with my partner. I have wonderful kids. You know, there must be something wrong. I just need to fix it and then everything will be okay. But something's wrong with me. That's what I thought. But that's not actually what is happening. So I believe, and I truly believe now, that the truth is that it's because of the way that we have lived our lives up until this point, the roles, the responsibilities, the habits, the way that we live our days, even some of our relationships, we're getting to a point that we realize that some of them no longer fit with who we are right now. And that's okay, you know? And I think a lot of this has to do with us realizing that we've come to a point in our lives where our identity needs to change as well. So it's like we're kind of getting to the point where we're wanting to shed that skin of who we were before. And it's kind of like a caterpillar to a cocoon or a chrysalis, and then it becomes a butterfly. It's changing. There's a metamorphosis going on. And it's part of the process of life, right? We're not 9 years old for our entire lives. We're children, adolescents, young adults, and now we're in middle age. We're still continuing this process of this human dance. And we have to work through the way that we're feeling now, because if we don't, then that can create even more really problems in our lives and with our families and all of our lives, even our professional lives and so many other things. So I personally believe that it's something that's calling us, it's really calling us to work through this whole process. So it's something that's part of our inner selves is kind of, knocking at the door and saying, hello, here's something I want you to work on. So we really do have to work on this. It's like the caterpillar has to go through this process, or else they don't turn into the butterfly that flies. So I'll tell you a little bit about my own personal story. So I started feeling this a few years ago, and it was at the point we were living. I'm from North Carolina in the United States. We had lived there for a few years, and then we decided to move back to Southern Europe, to Spain, where we live now. And it was a really hectic time, deciding all these things. And I kept feeling this feeling of, something's going on. And then I kept like really pushing it down. I'm sure you feel that way too. Sometimes you feel something, you just don't want to deal with it. So you just push it down again. Right. So I kept feeling that. And then it got to a point where I had to face it. I had to face those feelings. I had to face the stresses, the anxiety that I was going through. I had to face it, or else it was going to just take me to my knees. You may have already been through situations in your life where you have been knocked down to your knees, or maybe even down to the floor, right? We've all gone through things that are difficult, and we have to face them. We have to move through them. So the process that I used to move through them, and the process that I use with my clients, and I'm a coach now, is the first step is really awareness. It's stopping and realizing that there is something that you need to go through. You need to stop and just be aware of what is going on. And you have to give yourself some grace. You have to give yourself some hugs. You have to give yourself some time. You have to find out what it is that, specifically, what process do you need to get to that awareness. And for me, in this process, my way was meditation. So I started meditating every single morning, and a lot of times in the evening too. That was a way for me to take time for myself, to listen to myself, to be with myself in a calm way. And meditating actually helped me to be calm. And it also helped me to be clear as to really what was going on. And for somebody else, for you, it might look a little bit different. In future videos, we'll talk about other ways of doing this, of taking time for yourself. So meditation may or may not work for you. It sure did for me. It really did for me, to help me get to that awareness of what was going on, and to be able to start looking at things through a more calm lens to see what it was. I was able to see what was working in my life. I was able to see what really didn't fit at that point in my life. I was able to see what was draining me of my like emotional energy, of my time. And the other side to that is, it was so nice, and it still is so nice. I still take time every day for me. I still get to take time to understand what brings me joy, what it is that lights me up, what makes me feel good inside, what it is that I enjoy. And a lot of times it's the simple things. For me, it's the simple things. I did make some changes, but it's not necessarily the point where you have to make major life changes going through this process. So for me, it was a change in really the meaning of my days. I was able to shift the way that I thought about meaning in my life. I shifted it big time. I also, through that process, I also changed my profession. I was an accountant before, assistant controller, and I ended up going through this awareness and through this whole process. I ended up changing my profession to be a coach. So now I'm a life coach. That's what I'm doing now, and that's why I'm doing these videos, because I've learned so much from what I have gone through, from my personal experience, and also from working with wonderful people as well. So for me, also a big change that happened through this awareness was an identity shift. I realized that, yes, even though I'm a partner to my husband, I have 3 wonderful children, I have a career, I have many, relationships with friends, people that I work with. I enjoy my life right now, but I see my life, I see myself in a different way right now. And I really think that it's part of what has really helped me in this change is realizing that my identity as a person is the base of it. The very base of who I am is a human doing this human dance and trying to find ways each day to joyously create, to be a creator in each of my days. So what else is in the process that I did? So once I learned through this awareness, I was taking time for myself, realizing what was not giving me satisfaction in my life, what was pulling me down, and also what was giving me joy and what I really enjoyed doing and how I enjoyed being. Then the next step is systems. So I learned to create systems for myself to be able to be this creative and joyful person. So you don't have to hustle. I think a lot of times what drives me crazy in seeing things on the internet now about even other coaches or people in business is hustle, hustle, hustle. Well, yes, I agree. There are times in life that we do have to hustle, 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 working 20 hours and then maybe sleeping 4 and then getting up at 4:30 in the morning and going to the gym and all this stuff. Well, for some people that works. For some people that is a good system. And perhaps for some points in our lives, that is a good system. But for me at this point in my life, as a 56-year-old woman, that system doesn't work for me. Whenever I think I have to hustle, it just, oh my gosh, it, it drives me crazy. So no, I don't. I set up systems so I don't have to feel that hustle. I set up systems for myself, my professional life, and even in my personal life, so I feel more natural. I feel supported by my systems. It feels like a natural way to live. But it's part of the process is working working those systems to see what it is that works for you. So sometimes it's you try one system, you try doing something, and then you realize that's probably not what feels the best, what works the best in your life. Well, then we work and change that. So those are definitely things that can be changed. So I want to close this up now to reassure you that the what you're feeling now, feeling something, something is just not right in your life right now, this is natural. I think it's extremely natural, especially for women at this stage in life, because our roles are changing. Our kids are getting older. They don't need us as much as they used to. We used to have to do everything for them. And then little by little, they started to be their own little people. And now all of my kids are officially adults. So they don't need me as much. My identity has started to change. Yours is too. Your roles, your personal roles, your career, or your business, your roles are changing little by little. It's natural to feel that uncomfortableness because things are changing. And it's not too late to go through a process, to go through taking the time to be aware of what it is that you're going through, what it is you want, what it is you don't want, and then working through those systems to make your life work for you now. So nothing is wrong with you. Nothing's broken. You're not broken. There's nothing to fix. It's just to change, to become aware, and to make the changes that you need. And again, I want to remind you that I have opened up slots for private conversations. There's a link below in the description. It'll take you less than 2 minutes. And I would appreciate it if you would just take 2 minutes and fill out that form. I will personally read all of your responses, and then I will get back to you to set up a time and date if I feel like it's a good fit. And that's it. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. It's just some things need to be changed. Some changes need to be made, and you have to understand how that works. It's not a natural process to go through to make it work. Okay? So I look forward to reading your responses in the form. And also, if you'd like to comment something below, I would be very happy to see your comments. This is my second week of putting out a video. Last week I put out 3 videos, and today I'm putting out this video. My plan, my system, my plan right now is to put out a video each week. And I would love to hear from you if you have specific ideas about what you would like for me to make videos on. I have plenty of ideas about what I want to make videos on, but if you have something specifically, write it in the form, in the Google form, or down below in the comments. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.